Okay, Bruce, you've been on the road by the time you end this tour 13 months.
So they say.
It's a lot of months.
Yes.
Is there any place you still call home now?
Yeah, well, yeah, England.
Yeah?
No, I still live
You couldn't
there.
have seen it much over the last year.
No, last 3 years.
Last 3 years.
Last 3 years I've seen England for about 4 months.
Whereabouts would you live when you get back home?
Well, if it's still there,
Yeah.
I've got a little house in Chiswick, which is near Hammersmith.
What about you, Nicko?
Yeah, I'm living in London. I've got a place in Muswell Hill,
Right.
which is the same. You know, I don't get to see it very often either.
A little bit of a report, and I'll just show the cover while we mention this, that Eddie, your mascot, would not be with you this time round. Now, I know you've done Canberra and you've done Melbourne, but Sydney is still to come. Eddie is with you, isn't he?
Yeah, we got him all wrapped up, you can safely say.
He's playing part of a mummy.
Yeah, a bit of a mummy's boy, yeah.
Is this a good indication of the stage show and the setting on stage? Cover?
Yeah, pretty much, really.
It's an Egyptian play.
Yeah, the Egyptian motif, as the Americans call it. Are you bringing the Egyptian motif with you here?
Did he say motif or no teeth?
No teeth. Yeah, that's what they get after they say it. Yeah.
Right.
You're bringing the Egyptian.
Good eating corn on the
You're a pretty straightforward guy. When you describe your show on stage, how would you describe Iron Maiden?
Well, it's spectacular, definitely.
Yeah.
But it's very energetic. I mean, it would be easy, I suppose. Some bands would like to rest on and let the show do all the work.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, because you've got all these nice lights and the sound, and we've got a pyro show. You know, we've got this pyromaniac that we imported from America. So he's come out. He's brought all his gubbins and bits and bobs with him. So that's pretty spectacular. And we've got loads of backdrops too, so that the scene is always changing.
Right.
And now and again we do shows where, you know, obviously you can't use all that stuff and everything. And it's actually quite nice to do shows like that because you know, you come off going, oh, you know, who needs it anyway?
Yeah,
you know, we can still hack it, you know, without all that stuff. Like Rock in Rio was a bit like that.
We'll go behind the Iron Curtain. Some of the countries that you worked on this tour behind the Iron Curtain. Can you name it?
Oh, yeah, we went to Poland.
Right.
And we did Yugoslavia as well.
Yeah.
Hungary.
What's the reaction behind the Iron Curtain to a heavy metal band?
Pretty much.
Was it sort of...
Ah! You know,
Over the top?
Yeah, just that's roughly the reaction.
How do they know of your music? I mean, are they allowed to play your music?
Oh, yeah, they're allowed to play it. They
Every day.
find it. It's the only way they can kind of get into, you know, heavy metal music or even rock and roll or even soft stuff is black market.
Yeah.
And apparently it's like half a month's salary to buy a piece of vinyl out there.
Yeah,
but they still make it, and I guess it's word of mouth as well, and you know, because the kids can still get out of the country and come backwards and forwards. So a few people come to see some bands back home. But I guess that's, you know, it's word of mouth too.
When you go off the road this time, is it an album? Can we look forward to
Well, it's a live album. It's a live album.
We'll
actually.
have a live album first, yeah.
Right.
5 months off.
Yeah.
For rehabilitation.
So when do you get back in studio?
Recuperation, whatever.
Yeah, recuperation.
Yes, then we have, after Christmas, guys have been writing and working for 5 months, writing songs.
Yeah.
We shall go and record another album and set up for...
Look forward to that one. So
Yeah.
that'll make 6 all up, won't it?
Yeah, that'll be 6, 7 if you include the live album, if you're into numbers. You know.
It's been nice to talk to you.
Yeah.
I'm into everything, and we've got Number of the Beast now, so we'll get into more numbers. Thanks very much for coming in, Nicko.
Sure.
Nice to meet you too.
Yeah.
McBrain,
That's
correct
correct,
name? Nicko, correct name?
It really is his name.
Iron Maiden. Go and see the guys Tuesday night at the Horden Pavilion in Sydney. Already killed them in Canberra, Melbourne. Horden's still to come, and then you're off to where?
New Zealand.
Okay. Bruce and Nicko, thank you for being with us.
Maiden originated in the East End of London. Which part of the East End are you from exactly?
Leytonstone, actually.
You're on.
It's not really the real art of the East End, but it's, you know, just the borders of it, I suppose.
What sort of bands were you into when you first got interested in music? Who did you like to listen to?
When I first got into music, I was really, I suppose, into bands like King Crimson and Genesis and early Black Sabbath, Purple, Zeppelin, all that sort of stuff, and Jethro Tull, of course. Basically, you know, for a mate, you know, I used to bunk off school and, shouldn't really say that, but I used to go around with my mates, play a bit of chess and that, and he used to put all these albums on, and I thought it was hippie music, you know. I was not used to all this stuff. I'd been listening to the Beatles and things like that, and I thought, you know, what is all this stuff? And he stuck it all on, and I said, oh, I couldn't handle it at first, and he said, well, look, take a couple of albums home, Jethro Tull and things like that. So I borrowed them, and lo and behold, I got become hooked with the stuff, and, you know, I just really started wanted to hear more and more, you know, rock albums or whatever, and it sort of went from there.
Well, searching through the archives, the first band I can find that you're involved with is a band called Influence, which I think later became called Gypsy's Kiss.
That's
what
right.
sort of music was that?
Very heavy, not very subtle, and really not very good, probably.
After Gypsy's Kiss, you got involved with a band called Smiler, I think.
That's right.
Was that different musically to Gypsy's Kiss?
It was quite different, yeah. It was more sort of rock blues stuff, and we used to do stuff by Savoy Brown and early Fleetwood Mac and all that sort of thing. Because the blokes I was in the band, I mean, I was like 18 at the time, and the blokes I was in the band were like 26, and I thought that was sort of ancient at the time. But, you know, they were a lot older, and, you know, they had a lot more experience in playing different sorts of music, and I thought, well, you know, I'll try playing some different sort of stuff. I mean, I'm not particularly into the blues that much. Some of it, you know, like Free and I like, but blues influenced stuff I'm into, but not actually really the blues. But I, you know, tried my hand at it and learnt a lot. We did quite a few gigs, and basically got me out there on the stage, you know. That was the basic thing leading up to forming Maiden, gave me confidence to form my own band.
Right, and that happened in Christmas of 1975.
That's right.
You left Smiler and formed your own band called Iron Maiden, which you designed the logo for as well.
Yeah.
Now, in the early days, Maiden seemed to be thought of as some kind of punk metal crossover band. Did you ever see yourself as being affiliated to the punk movement in any way?
Not at all, no. In fact, we hated it because it stopped us getting work. We couldn't get work, you know, because of, I won't say what I called them, but a lot of these bands. And, you know, we were really annoyed because we weren't getting, you know, regular work.
It is true, though, that you were booked to play the Roxy, a very notorious punk hangout in Covent Garden.
Yeah, well, it was quite funny, really, because we, to be honest, we didn't really know what was happening with this punk thing until it really started to get in the press, and this was just before that. And so anyway, we got booked to do this gig through some agent who wanted to manage us and turn us into, you know, I don't know, whatever, you know.
Told you to cut your hair, probably.
That's right, yeah. So anyway, she happened to book this gig at the Roxy, so we thought we'd better go and check it out, because we thought, well, we're not too sure about her, you know. So we went down there, and me and the singer Dennis at the time went down there, and there's all these, like, well, yobbos, like, sort of going over each other and stuff, and it was a bit, yeah. But I thought, you know, if we went down there and played a gig, and our fans come down there, there's going to be ructions, you know.
I can imagine there'd have been trouble,
That's right, so we said, no way, you know.
So instead you went off and you recorded a demo which featured 4 tracks, which were Invasion, Prowler, Strange World, and Iron Maiden.
That's right, yeah. Well, we went to Cambridge to do that, Spacewood Studios, and it was like New Year's Eve, 1978. Snow for days. It was just covered, and we had a motor that we, you know, had no sort of tax and insurance or anything. It was falling apart, but we just had to get up there, and we didn't even have a place to stay. The
demo was quite significant, though, in Iron Maiden's history. And of course, Iron Maiden is still a big number in the set today.
Yeah, I think it's been quite a few years now, really. As far as I know, we've always ended the set with that song, and you know, I don't think the fans would really want us to change that, you know.
In one particular show, you played with Samson and Angel Rich,
right,
and there was a review that appeared at that gig in Sounds, which is the first time, I think, the new wave of British heavy metal was actually mentioned. Did you consider yourself part of a new wave at that time? Did you see it as being a new movement?
Again, you know, as I said before, we didn't realise there was a movement as such going on, and we knew that there were bands, you know, breaking to get through and trying to get work, and it had been too long since, you know, like the big bands had broken into a certain area, and then there was this big gap, and there was no new young bands coming through, but we weren't really aware that there was this big movement happening, and we didn't really know about Saxon at the time and things like that until it started getting good, you know, like press coverage and stuff, and then we realised it was quite there's bands everywhere, you know, really trying to go for it, and thought this is good, you know, because like all this punk thing was happening, and we wanted to kick them out the door, like, you know. So it was great, you know.
So in December of that year, you signed a recording contract with EMI, and Rod became your manager officially. But you'd already had a lot of press. You'd had the front cover of Sounds already before that. Did that press help you get the record deal, do you think?
Yeah, it probably helped, but I think what really did the record deal was that they came down at a couple of gigs and this, that and the other, and we'd been playing to a following, and they knew that we had this real hardcore following.
So when you signed to EMI, you presumably quit the various jobs you've been doing and became full-time professional?
That's right. Well, actually, we'd already done that about 2 or 3 months before, because we started getting a lot more work. Because after the demo tape, you know, and the charting sounds and everything, we was able to get a lot more work. So we had to actually give our jobs up, and so we could sort of work all through the week rather than just taking long weekends and going sick and what have you.
Now, on February the 15th, you released the first single on EMI, and that was Running Free, and you played live on Top of the Pops. It must have been a very interesting experience.
Yeah, it's pretty chaotic, really, because people running around, you know, with, like, decibel meters and all that sort of thing, and in the end, it messed us up a little bit because, you know, we couldn't sort of play at the volume that we needed to play to get the sound and everything. But at least we went on there and played, and we were the first band, I think, to play live on the Abstinence of You about 8 years before something.
The single's also significant in that it featured the artwork of Derek Riggs for the first time. The figure of Eddie, though, he was kind of shaded and off in the background a little bit. Derek's worked on all your records since then. He's obviously a very important member of the team these days.
Oh, yeah, definitely. Yeah, he's definitely like 6th or 7th member of the band now, if you include Martin Birch. And, you know, I mean, his artwork's amazing, I think. I think he just gets better and better.
So then you went on and did your first album with Will Malone producing that one. And then you toured with Judas Priest, the album going in about #4, I think, in the UK.
That's right.
I think Priest at the time kind of felt you were ripping them off a little bit in terms of the way you looked and the way you sounded. Was there some uneasiness on that UK tour?
A bit, maybe, but I think they were more surprised the fact that we actually had a big following, you know, and quite a few of our fans were at the gigs because we'd actually been round and did like all the clubs and that in those areas where we were playing. So I think it surprised them quite a lot, actually, that we were actually going down so well, you know. Did throw them a bit.
Well, in fact, you went down so well, you then embarked on your own headline tour of the UK, in which Eddie appeared on stage for the first time. And you then played the Reading Festival. You were second on the bill to UFO on the Saturday night. It must have been great for you, because I know way of UFOs.
Yeah, big UFO fan.
That's right, you're a big admirer of his. There must have been a big step for the band playing the Reading Festival there.
Yeah, we were really nervous. I mean, we were so nervous. It was the first couple of numbers, I think we pretty much messed up, and you know, it really took us a little while to settle down, but the fans were so much behind us, it was unbelievable, you know, we couldn't seem to do any wrong, really, you know, in their eyes, sort of thing. But once we settled down, it was, you know, plain sailing, it was great.
Right. So after that, you were off into Europe. There was a 40-day tour supporting Kiss, and then Dennis Stratton left the band. What happened with him?
Well, he wasn't really into what we were doing, I don't think, you know. He started trying to write some songs and that, and they weren't really, you know, our cup of tea at all, and he was never really into the heavier sort of stuff.
He was replaced by Adrian Smith, who was, I think, previously with the Broadway Brats, and you recorded a single called Women in Uniform, which had previously been done by an Australian band called Skyhooks, and again played live on Top of the Pops, and also did a promo video, which I think was one of the first ones ever done.
Yeah, I think it was, actually. We were told at the time that it was probably the first actual promo rock video. So, yeah, you know, it's good. It's actually quite a good video. It never got played on very much, but, you know, still watch it now and again.
I'm actually from Worksop in Nottinghamshire, but it always gets put in biographies as I come from Sheffield.
Yes, I've read you're from Sheffield
yes,
as well.
In fact, I'm from about 20 miles south of Sheffield.
Do you want to put the record straight here,
Put the record straight.
And your background is very different to that of your predecessor, Paul Di'Anno. You actually went to a boarding school. You did your street credibility quite a lot good by getting expelled from it as well.
Yeah. Well, I was actually, the thing I was actually finally expelled for was getting rid of the contents of my bladder and the headmaster's dinner.
So after that, you were off to Queen Mary College.
Yeah. And
you were getting involved with bands, I think, rather than studying in the library. You were playing with bands.
That's the main thing that prompted me. I mean, I'm not. Although I'm quite interested in history, I mean, I didn't exactly want to turn into a Don or anything like that, or go and be a history teacher. What I really wanted to do is try and get involved in music, so it seemed like a good idea. All I had to do was write a few essays and pass a few exams, and then I could spend most of the rest of the time working on singing and bands and things.
Things got a little more serious. You joined up with Samson, who featured Paul Sampson and Thunderstick as well, people might know. You were then for about 2.5 years. Was it a tough decision to leave Samson to join Iron Maiden when Paul Di'Anno quit?
Yes and no. It was musically it wasn't a tough decision at all, because as far as the music thing was concerned, I was absolutely convinced that it was the right thing to do, because I'd always admired what Maiden had been doing, and thought, well, you know, wouldn't it be great to sing for a band like that? You know, the thing that really made me sweat for about 3 days was the idea that I was letting everybody down.
Yeah.
And so I just sat down and told them one day, I said, look, Maiden asked me to join, and I really want to do it, and so I thought I'd tell you.
Started recording the Number of the Beast album with Martin Birch, done at Battery Studios in Willesden. In March of 1982, Run to the Hills was released as the first single, and that was followed by the album itself. As I said, it was called The Number of the Beast, and there was a video done for the title track of that album, wasn't there?
Yes, recorded at Newcastle City Hall, actually. The video you're going to see in a minute, you'll notice that there's a couple of ballroom dancers come on. which was the director's idea. He had this bright idea coming up on the train. He found these two people who'd never been in a video. They were just like amateur dancers. And they just turned up, and they really got into it. They were, you know, and then we had the idea of turning his wife, who's the guy who's dancing or something like that. We said, well, I'll tell you what we'll do. We'll turn your wife into a werewolf. Do you mind dancing with a werewolf?
Please.
This is great, you know. And so it worked out quite well in the end.
Let's move the story along to 1983. Drummer Clive Burr decided to leave the band. What was that all about?
Again, it was. I think it was more similar to the Paul Di'Anno thing. Although there was a fairly strong musical element in it as well, because as a result of his certain sort of personal things he'd been going through, he's having a lot of problems adjusting, I think, to the idea, not to his position as a drummer in a big rock band, you know.
Well, anyway, his replacement was Nicko McBrain.
Yeah, Nicko, yes.
Very well.
Well, Nicko, again, we'd seen him on the Trust tour, and we used to watch him when Trust was... I mean, I wasn't on that tour initially, when Trust supported us in England, but when Trust did a few shows with us in was it in France? No, it was in Germany. We always used to creep up to the side of the stage and watch Nicko, because he was just such a phenomenal drummer.
So he joined up, and for some strange reason, he decided to leave sunny Willesden for the Bahamas to record the next album at Compass Point.
Yes, we did. Yes.
Still using Martin Birch. This is the Peace of Mind album we're talking about now. After that, you were out on the road again. You were doing 300 shows in 13 countries, 5 of which ended up behind the Iron Curtain. You played Poland. How was Poland?
It was great, actually. We're going back there next year. Yeah, we start the tour there. So it was obviously all right, because we went back there. Again, I ended up somewhere most peculiar in Poland. The first night I was there in Warsaw, sleeping on the floor with this journalist and half a dozen students at 7 o'clock in the morning with all these empty bottles of vodka in some suburb of Warsaw. I'm quite convinced we shouldn't have been. It was probably verboten or something. Yeah. And wandering around with this journalist from Kerrang going, oh, God, what happened? You know, the audiences were fantastic. And the technical side of it was really well done too, actually. They were really well organised. They were so up for it, because they'd never seen a show that big.
By this point, the Powerslave album was out, again produced by Martin Birch at Compass Point Studios in Nassau. I think most Maiden fans would regard it as your strongest studio album, without question.
I think, there's a couple of reasons for that. One is that Nicko, by this stage, was really completely integrated in the whole band, having done a world tour and everything as well. And so nobody was holding anything back at all, and there was no problems about line-up changes, or certainly, I mean, nobody was in any danger whatsoever of, like, getting pissed off with the whole situation or leaving or whatever. And so everybody just mucked in straight away and just got stuck in. And I think it's the closest to live that we've ever got on a studio album. You know, it's the closest to, like, a live sound.
And the stage show, which was very elaborate too.
Well, the stage show sort of stemmed from the album, really.
An Egyptian theme based on the album's sleeve.
So, well, I wanted to sort of go a bit, you know, Egyptian, so to speak.
Well, there's one track on the album, which is the title track, Powerslave.
Yes,
based on those themes.
Yeah, but in fact, Revelations on the album before, on Peace of Mind, was also had bits of sort of Egyptological references sort of slung in that track. I thought about making that one much more specific, but I thought, no, let's wait a little bit. So I ended up on this one, coming up with Powerslave, and then suggesting to everybody else, well, we don't really have an idea for the album cover. What about Egypt? So I got my picture books out and had a look and sort of looked for album cover ideas, and we came up with this brilliant idea, and showed it to Derek Riggs, who painted it, and it was naff. So he just went away and painted his own thing, and it was brilliant.
Certainly a great sleeve. It's a really very good
well, again, we sat down and tried to plan it out and tried to go, well, couldn't you have, like, a huge temple here with a sort of a hieroglyph up there? And Derek would go, yeah. And he'd go away and come up with something totally different that was absolutely brilliant.
Which just about brings us up to the present day and the release of the new double live album, Live After Death. Yeah. Again, with a very impressive Derek Riggs sleeve on it.
Yes, well, we wanted to the logical progression after taking his brain out and then
This is Eddie
killing
talking
him
about,
and,
not Derek Riggs.
yeah, mummifying him, well, possibly Derek as well, actually, and mummifying him and stuff like that was to was resurrect him live, and of course, Live After Death was a great title for the album too.
Was the album originally going to be a triple live album rather than a double?
Well, we thought about it, but by the time we'd figured out how much all the extra whinging and whining and screams and howls of indignation from record companies and all the rest of it was going to cost, plus the fact that that cost would all be passed on to the person who had to buy it at the end of the day, we thought we'd make it a double but cram 100 minutes on it.
What's in the bag for you at the moment?
Well, we've got a live album coming out in October. Just Martin Birch is still mixing it in LA at the moment, and I just had a few tapes that he sent over, and it sounds really good. I'm well pleased with it. Like so.
A lot of British heavy metal bands tend to work a lot with American producers and working in America. Why do you suppose that is?
Well, Martin's not American. I mean, you know, he's just, you know, definitely not American.
We'll get in trouble for that.
Yeah, really. I think he'll probably decorate me some music. But no, he's working in LA because we finished up there. That was the last gig, so it was the obvious place just to carry on from there, mixing there, you know.
You've just finished the biggest tour virtually anyone's ever done, certainly the biggest tour that you've just done.
Yeah.
Yeah, that must have been quite an experience. You got to go to places that heavy metal doesn't normally reach, does it?
Well, Poland and places like that, yeah, I suppose it don't reach there too much, but yeah, well, it's a long tour, a bit tired, you know, but...
And what was it like going to Poland? That must have been quite a culture shock for them and a culture shock for you.
Yeah, it was great. I mean, the reactions were brilliant, you know, and like we expected it to be good, but like not that good, you know. It was like I don't know, like because it's all black market stuff over there, and we weren't really sure how we was going to go down. You know, we didn't really know what to expect. But it was so well organised as well. I couldn't believe it.
Really?
You know? Yeah.
It's better than playing gigs in like the civilised world as we know it. Anyway.
Yeah, yeah. Be honest, yeah. I won't mention any countries' names, but yeah, it was, yeah.
Now, it must have been quite a revelation for them to see something as big and as loud as you. Did you take a big production with you?
Yeah, we took everything, you know, like as what we played everywhere else in Europe, we took with us, you know. So it's the first time they've ever actually seen a full production like that, I think. And you know, I think they were just really pleased that we bothered to turn up, you know, use all the gear, you know. So.
What next for you after that? I mean, a gig on the moon or something daft like that?
I don't know. We're running out of places, I must admit. Yeah. I don't know. I'd like to play, you know, somewhere like Egypt and India and places like that. You know, we don't play there yet, but
well,
never know. One day.
Yeah, Eastern tour. That might be quite interesting.
Yeah,
right.
Definitely. Yeah.
I look forward to that one.
Yeah, nice one.
See you again soon.
Yeah.
Cheers.
Cheers.
As promised today, Mick Wall and myself are joined by Steve Harris and Dave Murray of Iron Maiden.
Hi, chaps.
Welcome.
Hello. Afternoon.
Now, I'm sure you've been asked this question 100 times, probably 1,000 times, but I've got to go back to the beginning and ask you your earliest influences, first of all.
I think probably UFO and Jethro Tull and
Yeah?
Yes and Deep Purple. And
Not that old then, are you?
getting on a bit.
Yes, and Jethro Tull. It doesn't really sound very much like Iron Maiden music, does it?
No, but we've got a lot of tempo changes and that, so I suppose there's probably a bit of influence here and there, you know.
Yeah. So how did you two first meet? How did you actually get together? Because I mean, you're like the longest surviving members of the present band.
Yeah, well, it was.
Yeah. Actually, I came down for like an audition.
Through Melody Maker, really, wasn't it?
Yeah.
More or less.
Yeah, always looking through Melody Maker, you know, for like gigs and stuff.
What did
And
it say? The ad? What did it say?
Well, it wasn't an actual ad. It was what it was. He was a singer who was in our band at the time, a bloke called Dennis.
Mm.
He sort of auditioned Dave before when, you know, in an old band of his, and so he said, well, yeah, I know this really good guitarist, and all that. And I said, well, you know, get him down, and came down, plugged in, and that was it.
Kept Dave and got rid of Dennis.
Well, actually, yeah, a little bit later, yeah. That happened a little bit later. But
So
yeah,
what was the first gig then you could say that Iron Maiden ever did, just out of interest?
So that wedding reception in no, actually the Carton Horses actually, yeah.
It was the very first Maiden gig.
In the East End of London.
Yeah, May '76, I think it was.
So what's it like, though, going from small gigs to, like, a couple of hundred people, then going up to big stadiums of 20,000, 30,000 people?
Well, it didn't happen overnight, so it's a gradual thing, you know. It wasn't like, you know, one night we were playing Ruskin Arms or something.
Even so,
But
did you ever imagine you'd get this big? I mean, one night you're at the Carton Horses, and then, like, could you say, like, oh, 3 years from now it'll be...
No, not really.
No.
I mean, we just thought we wanted to play clubs and pubs and just play all over England. We didn't even think about outside of anywhere else, you know.
Yeah, just actually being able to go out and play and you know, wherever we played actually at clubs or pubs, it was just that feeling to go out and play. So over the years, it's sort of just gradually, you know, step by step, actually I sort of built it up, you know.
Yeah.
So it wasn't overnight.
No, of course not. And management, of course, helped. How did you go about getting good management and your record deal?
Well, that was a bit of luck, really, because I used to be an architectural draftsman, and a bloke I used to work with, a bloke called Andy, used to play rugby with Rod Smallwood, who's now our manager, and I just said to Andy, look, you know, take this tape interview, you know, because he used to manage Cockney Rebel before Rod. And so I just said, well, take the tape and see what he thinks, you know. So he came down, and the first couple of gigs that he came to, well, one of them got cancelled because, you know, we had, like, problems with this bloke who's running the pub. And we had a big sort of row with him and everything, so we didn't end up playing because he wasn't going to pay us the money and this, that and the other. And so that was one time disaster. Then the next time, the singer at the time, Paul Giano, got arrested outside.
For carrying a knife?
Yeah,
oh, that's right, yeah. That's right, yeah.
But it was just like a small, like, it wasn't even a flick knife or anything like that. It was just
honest
like
government,
one
wasn't
for, no, honest. No, it was just one of those ones for cutting wood or something. You know?
Picking your fingernails, that sort of knife.
That's right, yeah. We went on actually and done like an instrumental, like half the set. Then Paul came like the last 15 minutes, so he sort of walked in and like,
just jumped on stage.
Went finished it. It was great fun. You know?
Great. We'll be talking to Steve and Dave more after this. This is Iron Maiden and Number of the Beast.
Number of the Beast and Iron Maiden. We've got Steve Harris and Dave Murray here in the studio with us. Now, lads, I know you've just been away for like 13 months doing a huge world tour, 24 different countries. I mean, and you're both still alive. It amazes me. How do you do it?
It amazes me. It's pretty tiring, you know.
I mean, if I came to you today and I said, right, I've got another 13-month world tour, you start tomorrow.
Well, I couldn't
run away. Run away, actually.
Back in London now, resting. What's it like to readjust? Is it easy for you?
It takes about... yeah, really. No, it takes a couple of weeks to really settle down. You know, sometimes, you know, in this case, because we've been away so long, about a month to adjust to the times. You know, I mean, first of all, sort of sitting up at 4 in the morning watching videos and stuff and all that. Now I'm, you know, sort of going to bed around about 1 and getting up about 9 or 10. You know, so I'm roughly back to what it should be. You know?
But I mean, like 24 different countries. I mean, it just you know, I just can't imagine what it's like. I mean, how many of these places do you actually remember being in, for instance?
Well, I remember being in all of them, really. You know.
Yeah.
You know, sort of different memories from each. You know.
Yeah, a lot of fond memories actually of the tour. You know, even like where we started off in Poland. Although that was like right at the beginning of the tour, I can still remember it.
That's really because you got the video of it, I bet.
Yeah, that's true.
Well, I mean, we wouldn't be able to say, if you said, oh, where did you play on the, you know, the 3rd of July, we wouldn't be able to say, oh, we played this place. But, you know, it's, we can still remember the actual places, you know, from the gigs and stuff.
Right, right.
Yeah. So would you like to live anywhere else other than England?
No, definitely not.
No.
No way.
Very patriotic.
It's not just that. I think it's just, I don't know, this is home. You know, I wouldn't want to live it. It's great to visit other places, you know, but this is home.
All right, let's have a look at Queensryche. This is Take Hold of the Flame.
Queensryche and Take a Hold of the Flame, as specially requested by Dave Murray and Steve Harris of Iron Maiden. Now, lads, this is the big day, isn't it? Today, the new album is actually released, Live After Death, a live double album, right? Now, Side 1, Side 2 and Side 3 come from the Long Beach Arena in California, and with Side 4 from the Hammersmith Odeon here in London about this time last year. How did it actually come about, that idea?
Well, we wanted to really record, you know, all of it from Hammersmith because it's home, but, you know, we ended up sort of recording 3 sides of it from LA because by that time, you know, like October was when we recorded Hammersmith, and then time March came around in LA, we were just playing that bit better, I think, most of the numbers anyway.
Plus, it's quite nice because I mean, they're all actually quite old songs on the last side. I mean, I'm not really sure if I'll see you lot play those songs too often again.
Yeah, well, in Europe we can get away with playing a lot of old stuff, you know, because everyone knows them, you know. But like in America, the first album wasn't, you know, we didn't tour with that and all that, so they don't know the early songs so much.
But what's your favourite side? I mean, Dave, if you go home at night and, like, you know, actually pulled a record out, I mean, what's the actual side you'd put on?
Yeah, what we were saying earlier, I think Hammersmith is like, you know, for actual raw energy, you know, that's one of my favourite sides.
That's one that gives you the buzz.
Yeah, but I also like sides 1, 2 and 3 too, so, I mean, it's, you know, for the actual production and the whole live thing, you know, I still get excited listening to it. You know?
Yeah. And here it is, the album, Live After Death, which is released today. Beautiful. gatefold colour sleeve there. You obviously pay attention to like the minutest detail. So little gravestones there with messages on. And do you have a lot to do with the making of the cover and design?
Yeah, definitely, yeah.
You do, yeah?
Yeah.
And there's an 8-page colour booklet that goes with it too, which is also very nice.
And there is also the fiercest looking Eddie you've ever seen in your life, right in the middle, taken by Ross Halfin, who we had in the studio a couple of weeks ago. Now listen, chaps, the cover artwork is always done by Derek Riggs, right? Your artwork man, he's done all your album sleeves, but he's actually like a man of mystery, isn't he? I mean, we've never actually seen a photograph of his face, for instance.
No, it's up till now.
I mean, we can actually see him in
You
it.
can see his face now. Up to, you know, before then he sort of had his hand in front of his face, or just to try and keep a bit of mystique now, you know, because he's a bit weird like that.
Well weird.
He is well weird, as it happens.
Probably the weirdest.
Really nice bloke, but I'll say that, but
he's nice, but he's dead weird.
Yeah.
All right, let's look at the next video. This is Iron Maiden and The Trooper.
That was Iron Maiden and The Trooper. Steve, there's actually a video out as well to accompany the album, also called Life After Death.
Yeah.
What's the ideas behind the new video?
Well, that's from LA as well, but that was
Oh,
recorded
right.
on a different night to the album, so it's a different soundtrack, in fact.
It's quite an interesting video. I mean, it's like there's like something like 9 different cameramen on it and stuff like that, isn't
Yeah,
there?
that's right. Actually, we had one camera. It's called Rover, and it's like on an arm, and so you could like actually cover like all the audience and the stage sort of thing. You know, with, like a wide-angle lens on it.
You see, I'm lucky
Captured
here because
now.
I actually had a sneak preview of it just a couple of days ago. But it's like cuts around at lightning speed, and I've got to tell you, it's fantastic.
Now, for something completely different, chosen by you, Steve. This is Heart. What About Love? That was What About Love and Heart. The Life After Death video runs to some 90 minutes, and I know the album's over 100 minutes. Powerslave 50 minutes. And most bands wouldn't dream of putting that amount of music on one album. How come you did?
Well, with the live album, we had so much material to choose from, we just couldn't cram in even all what, you know, we wanted to put on, really. There's still lots of numbers that we wanted to put on, we missed out.
But I mean, you hear all these stories like groups saying, oh no, you can't possibly have more than 23 minutes aside, it spoils the quality and that sort of thing.
You've got to get a really good cutting engineer. If you're going to go over about 25, because we've got a couple of albums that got like 26 minutes aside, and you've got to, because we really squeeze it all on.
Seems your songs have got faster and faster over the years. To me, anyway. Would you agree with that?
Probably, yeah. I mean, actually, the live album's faster than, you know, anything we've done. You know, live we played faster anyway. It's just like adrenaline, you can't help it.
Yeah.
And sometimes, you know, sort of jump on the rise and say to Nicko, like, try and pull it back, but, you know, other times you just think, well, let it go because it's exciting, you know.
Yeah, get out when it goes
That's why essentially, I guess, on the live album that you know, we had to make sure that over the 4 nights we was actually right on top of it to hold it back, you know, because we know that it's going to be like on the live album, so it's got to be well solid and there, you know.
Right. Well, we're going to go into another Iron Maiden video now. This is on your album. This
and
is
the new single?
Running Free.
Running Free, Iron Maiden, and just to prove it, look, I've got the colour 12-inch picture, disc, everything, extended disco, the whole bloody palaver. Here it is, it's marvellous, chaps, I like it. Cheers. Now, I understand the royalties from this record are going towards the anti-heroin campaign.
Yeah.
What made you decide to take that step?
Well, we came back from America, and there seems to be all this heroin addiction about in England, especially with the, you know, school kids and everything. We just thought we'd try and, you know, help put a stop to it, really.
Yeah. So every penny that you make of this record will go to that?
Yeah, it goes right in there, yeah, to the funds.
Well, good for you. Good for you.
Thank you very much for taking time out of your resting period to come and see us.
Yes, thank you very much indeed, lads.
Fulfilled one of my dreams. Thank you very much.
Thanks a lot. Cheers.